Hey, Axel here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 things that you can do to make your film better with the help of a DP. So I have my friend Cody here.
Yeah, hey guys. I'm a DP and colorist, and we're going to talk about 3 things you can do during production.
So the first thing I wanted to talk to Cody about was timing. Sometimes work with a DP and they come in and they're like, yeah, I'll get the scene ready in like 15 minutes. And an hour and a half later, you're still wondering like, when are we going to be able to shoot? So how do you determine the time that you're going to spend lighting a scene?
Personally, for me, that's the hardest thing. Crew is always changing, you might have more crew or less crew. Our job is to create emotion through image, right? So we are going to use anything we can with the lights, with setting up the camera movement, all of those things to get the most emotion out of our images. And I think the biggest thing is taking all those steps that we talked about in the pre-production and bringing those into production to speed up the process. Taking our lighting diagrams and our lookbook, having a good understanding of what the emotion is in the script, then being able to quickly set up lights so it's not dampening the process.
Like if it's taking more than an hour and a half or 2 hours, it's time to like, hey, hurry up.
If you give us the time, we're gonna sit there and light all day. Like we'll empty the truck with just all the lights we have. For instance, like the AD, to kind of be on the DP and like, hey, we don't have a ton of time to do this. Like, let's get it lit to a point that's acceptable, where you kind of get to a point of like diminishing returns. And if those things are important to you and you have the time, take the extra time setting up that one little light bulb in the distance, for a little bit of like specular, whatever. If you don't have the time, make do with what the time that you're given.
I'm always thinking, okay, how much I'm going to have to do the next shot and the next shot and the next shot. Because you're not just doing one room or one scene. It leads into the next question, talking about coverage. Sometimes we overshoot because we don't know what we're doing, or we're afraid that we're not going to have enough in the edit room.
The first thing you can do is to help with all of that is if you can design your lighting in a way that you can shoot your coverage without having to move a ton of lights.
So how would you do that?
If you're having a dialogue, you can use like one actor's key light as like a backlight or like a fill light for the other actor. So using the lights that you have in multiple ways for the actors that you're shooting. So when you go to shoot over the shoulders, it's not like having to move a whole bunch of lights. And they kind of like use this concept in multi-camera shooting.
Because sometimes you only have the one camera, but sometimes you have access to several cameras. Some people don't like doing that. In my experience, if I can get 2 cameras of the same model, same lenses, same everything, so they match, it speeds things up. At least the way I like to work, it makes it a lot faster because I'm getting 2 angles. And even if you spend the same amount of time, you get more.
A lot of it is actually going to depend on the director and kind of the director's style and how he flows or she flows. Sometimes the director's like very methodical and they want to like take their time with one camera. But especially on like scenes where you're going to need a lot of coverage and that there's a lot going on. I mean, it can help speed things up a ton by adding an extra camera, or even adding 3 cameras. But if you can figure out a way to light it and figure out where to place the cameras where you're not seeing the other cameras, I mean, you're taking something that could take, multiple days to shoot and compress that down to...
cut it in half. What are some mistakes that people could do when shooting with 2 cameras?
If you have 2 cameras, don't immediately assume that you're going to have to sacrifice the way that you light it. You have to make it a little bit flatter lighting because you might have to like light everything from above and you can't fit in lights, and it can take a little bit more in deciding where to place things. But if you take that little bit extra time in placement, it can save you tons of time when you're actually shooting the dialogue.
So one thing that happens a lot is we go to shoot a scene, the DP starts lighting, I go and talk to the actors, and then you come back and it's like you have all of these lights that that is not going to be enough. How do you deal with those disagreements? And that is going to happen. No matter what, you are going to have those moments. What advice would you give to people to deal with that?
As always, comes from pre-production, right? Get a really good idea, even if it's like a small meeting at the beginning of the day. Sit down and say, what are we shooting? I should have a pretty good idea of what the director is thinking blocking wise. So just referring to like actors, the way that they're going to move in the scene, where they're coming from, having a really good idea of oh, this person's walking out of the hallway and the director wants to see them. That could change everything. Because if I just think, oh, we're just going to pick them up when they get into the kitchen, but really you wanted to see the hallway, I mean, that could add so much time to production.
Now, how do you recommend some practical tips when dealing with a legitimate disagreement? You and I, we disagree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I want to shoot in 8K, you want to shoot in HDR.
Yeah.
I want to listen to like gangster hip hop, and you want to listen to like pop cute music when we are working in post production.
Yeah.
How do you recommend dealing with the disagreements?
Yeah. I might have those few things that like I really want to hang on to, right? That like those are really important things to me. Like, for instance, I love to shoot on like the shadow side of someone's face whenever I can. I might fight a little bit more for those things, right? Like, hey,
so pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, give me the extra 2 minutes to get this right. Otherwise, you kind of have to understand as well, like, where your director's coming from. There's something you really wanted, or if it's something you really wanted differently, you know, it's my job to create and craft your vision, right? It's not the other way around. Like, some things just aren't worth fighting for. You know what I mean?
You have to learn how to compromise and when to compromise. That will make you a stronger filmmaker if you know when to do it. And this is something very tricky. I think you learn with experience. I have learned to compromise some things when I don't really need that. For example, if wardrobe wants the dress to be blue and it doesn't change anything to me in the story, make sure you make it the way the other people want it. That doesn't mean that you're a pushover, and like if you're a DP and the director comes and says, oh, I don't want this lights, you let them do whatever. And the same for the director. You shouldn't let the DP boss you around. And that happens with directors who are starting out, working with a more experienced DP, because you think the DP knows better because they have more experience. Sometimes they do, and sometimes you have to listen to them, but some other times you have to stand your ground and get what you want. Make sure you keep working with the same people. When you find someone who is good, make sure you keep working with them, because that's going to help you along the way.
Yeah, I mean, you start to develop trust with that person.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest thing. Like, mutual trust between as many people on set as you can. Because when it comes down to it, like, if you trust me, you're going to say, okay, you know what? I don't know if I really agree with you, but I know what you can do. I trust you. Make it look good. And at the same time, if you say, no, I really want it this way, me trusting you and being like, you know what? Everything that they've made is so good. I'm just going to trust them in this moment and know that they know what they're doing.
I would love to see if you have any questions, any specifics, any things that you would do different or that you would like us to cover in other videos. Cody, thank you so much for,
of course, always.
for being along for this. And I'll see you guys in another video.